If you've done therapy, you've read the books, and you're disappointed with your progress, I get it, because I was there too. About 15 years ago, I was diagnosed with complex PTSD, and I was deeply disappointed by what mainstream mental health had to offer me. Everything was about coping, and I didn't want to manage my anxiety. I wanted to stop feeling anxious. I wanted to stop having triggers. I wanted to be excited to wake up in the morning and have healthy relationships. And I wanted to feel a sense of meaning over my life that wasn't just pain. But no matter how many counselors I went to, no one could offer me like a plan of how to get there or even give me hope that it was possible. But something inside me believed that my life could be so much more than just trying to feel okay. So I went on this journey, an intense one, and I studied human development and neuroscience and attachment theory and a bunch of transformational practices. And guess what? I found some things that worked for me. And more than that, I found a framework that worked for other people too. For years, I thought that I just had an unlovable personality. I was so stuck in the idea that I needed to fix myself in order to be worth loving, in order to be acceptable. But I had it backwards. Today I'm going to share a snapshot about what I learned because if you're watching this, maybe it can help you too. First, I want to introduce this concept of true self. So you have this self that lives in your body. You might call it your personality. The self is highly formed by your experiences and your environment and your genetics, and it's filled with adaptations that are responding to the pains of your life. Then you have your true self, your spirit. This is the part of you that exists beyond space and time. It's the version of you that the Creator thought of at the beginning of time. Your true self is the person you were designed to be. When we operate in our true selves, good work, creativity, connection, generosity, it all just flows out of us. So this means the good things you want to do in life, they are a byproduct of walking out in who you were made to be. Imagine becoming your true self is like baking a cake. To bake the cake, you need certain ingredients like flour and eggs and sugar and butter. If you're missing any of those ingredients, the recipe doesn't turn out quite right. It's missing the mark. And some of those ingredients are a little bit more important than others. Growing up, we're supposed to get certain ingredients from our environment to help us develop into our true selves. We gain these ingredients from our families, from our communities, from our experiences. These are the human developmental needs, and the standards for that are actually a lot higher than you might think. Here's my point, is that I believed I needed to do good things in order to be lovable. And then when I failed at doing those good things, I would feel so much shame and worthlessness that I couldn't do them. I thought something was wrong with me. I was missing major ingredients for my cake, and then I would get frustrated that the cake wasn't turning out right. But I had it all backwards. I needed to learn how to first access love, get my needs met. Then once I received all of the ingredients, then my soul's mission could emerge naturally, not the other way around. Things that we think are part of our personality, things like replaying the same painful relationships with different people, or the things we get obsessed with, our vices, our addictions, the behaviors we feel like we don't have any control over. These aren't personality traits. They are coping tools we developed because we didn't have the right ingredients from the environments growing up. But if we learn how to get the ingredients now, we can learn how to make the cake we were always intended to make. I call these ingredients skills for resilience. They are 8 foundational skills that build on each other. When you have these skills, your true self, your purpose, all the good things you want to have and do and be in life, it isn't something that you force. It's something that just flows out of you naturally. So I'm going to do a brief description of those 8 skills. The first one is joyful identity. It's seeing yourself through the eyes of someone who delights in you. Number 2, compassion, the ability to stay loving and present with yourself inside of pain. Number 3 is regulation. It's maintaining steady emotional state without getting stuck. Number 4 is confidence, knowing what matters to you and expressing it authentically. 5 is assertion, advocating for yourself while honoring others at the same time. Satisfaction, appreciating where you've been and enjoying where you are. Self-mastery. Balancing what you give, productivity, and what you receive, receptivity. Actualization. Giving yourself fully, freely, and joyfully without strings attached or burning out. These skills build on each other. And kind of like in baking, there's a certain order you need to go in or the recipe won't turn out right. Like if you put the cake in the oven before you add the eggs, then the recipe doesn't come out the way that you wanted it to. And here's what most people don't realize. You can't jump straight to boundary setting or goal planning and expect it to work out if you're missing the foundations of joyful identity and self-compassion and regulation. Today, I'm going to walk you through the first 3 skills in depth. These are the foundational ones, the ones that make everything else possible. Then I'm going to give you a quick overview of the other 5 skills so you can see the full picture. Let's start with joyful identity. So joy means to delight in, and identity means the way you see yourself. So put it all together. Joyful identity is the skill of seeing yourself through the eyes of someone who delights in you. When you have this skill, you're able to enjoy time with the people you love. You're secure all by yourself. When life throws a wrench at you, you can keep a positive attitude. Judgments and negativity from others don't get under your skin too often. And when things go wrong, you have a solid rock to stand on in your joyful identity. But when you don't have this skill, everything feels kind of shaky. You're constantly looking for validation from other people. You constantly struggle when you're by yourself. Criticism cuts really deep and you feel extra sensitive. You might find yourself stuck in depressive or anxious or angry moods and you don't know how to get out of them. We learn how to see ourselves through the eyes of our social groups. Our family was the earliest social group that we ever had, and so they had the greatest impact on how we learned to see ourselves. The number one barrier to joyful identity is what I call a shame-based identity. It's seeing yourself through the eyes of rejection. Instead of I am delighted in, it's I'm too much. I'm not enough. And when that's your foundation, it's kind of like using rotten eggs inside of your recipe. It spoils the whole thing. This is the bedrock. Without joyful identity, every other skill becomes almost impossible to develop. You can't have compassion for yourself if you believe you're fundamentally unlovable. You can't regulate your emotions if you have a baseline of shame. You definitely can't set boundaries if you don't believe you're worth protecting. So this is where we start. We start with learning how to see ourselves through the eyes of someone who truly loves us. The second foundational skill is compassion. To be compassionate with yourself means to make the choice to be present with yourself in pain. It means seeing yourself as human, no more and no less. You have needs, you have strengths, you have weaknesses. When you miss the mark, you're able to reflect on your behavior with understanding. It makes you adaptable and resilient. When you feel pain, you can stay open and curious and connected, and this sets you up beautifully for healing. But here's what most people get wrong about compassion. They think it's weakness. They think it's enabling. They think if I'm compassionate with myself, then I'm just letting myself off the hook and I'll never actually change. But that's not how it works. Think of your brain like a computer system. Pain is kind of like a virus in your software. Compassion is the program that eliminates it. If we refuse to engage in compassion, we choose to keep the virus present. There are 2 types of pain, A pains and B pains. B pains are the bad things that happen to us. They're usually easy to identify. Someone yells at you, you lose a job, a natural disaster happens, a relationship ends. But A pains, they're the absence of the good things we really need to flourish. Maybe you needed to be seen and celebrated for good things as a child, but you were ignored. Maybe you really needed safety, but instead you got chaos. Maybe you needed permission to feel your feelings, but you were told to toughen up. Those absences create pain too, and most of us don't even realize we're carrying it. When you don't have compassion, you abandon yourself when you feel pain. You push it down, you distract yourself, you numb it out. And here's the connection to the first skill. You can't be compassionate with yourself if you don't have a joyful identity. Because if you see yourself through the eyes of rejection, being present with your pain feels like proof that you're broken. But when you have a joyful identity, compassion becomes possible. You look at your pain and you say, "Oh, honey, of course it hurts. Of course you're struggling. You're just human. And I deserve to be cared for, even by me." The third foundational skill is regulation. Regulation is the ability to feel emotional highs and lows without getting stuck in them. When you have this skill, you can maintain a steady emotional state most of the time. Sure, life has its ups and downs, but you trust that you'll come back to a grounded place in an appropriate amount of time. This also translates to good self control. When you decide you don't want something to rent space in your head, it actually stays out. You don't get easily hung up on upsetting experiences, past or future. You appreciate the present. But when you don't have regulation, you get triggered into unpleasant headspaces and you don't know how to get out. You might find yourself escaping or busying yourself or turning into addictive behaviors. This becomes regulation substitutes. They're not solving the problem, they're just helping you not feel it for a while. Here's why regulation is so hard without the first two skills. If you don't have joyful identity, your emotional baseline is already unstable. You're starting from a place of shame or anxiety, and any additional stress sends you spiraling. If you don't have compassion, you can't stay present with the uncomfortable feelings, so you avoid them, which means you never learn how to move through them. Regulation is kind of like a muscle. It can be strengthened, but you need the foundation first. You need to believe that you're worth caring for. You need to be willing to stay present with your pain. And then you can start practicing and recognizing your emotions, noticing how they show up in your body, and learning how to shift your state. And this is why boundary setting doesn't work for so many people. You can't hold a loving boundary when you're dysregulated. When someone pushes back on your boundary, you immediately spiral into shame or panic or rage, and the boundary collapses. Or you do the total opposite and you end the relationship, and we're not able to hold love with a boundary. So, regulation gives you the ability to stay steady, to stay clear headed, to hold the line, and to not abandon yourself while you're in the process. So, these are the three foundational skills: joyful identity, compassion, and regulation. When you have those three, the next 5 skills become possible. Skill number 4 is confidence. It's being sure of what matters to you and expressing it authentically. It's having integrity, being the same person all the time. Your values drive your decisions, so you're willing to try new and uncomfortable things to live in alignment with your new convictions. Without joyful identity, compassion, and regulation, you'll always be controlled by what other people think of you. Confidence requires inner strength that comes from those first 3 skills. Assertion is the ability to mindfully advocate for yourself. It means honoring yourself and others at the same time. Firm boundaries, but with kindness. This is what everyone wants to jump to, right? Teach me how to set boundaries. But assertion is an advanced skill. If you don't have the foundation, boundary setting becomes either aggressive or it completely collapses. You need the earlier skills to successfully grow in your assertion. Skill number 6 is satisfaction. Satisfaction is the ability to appreciate where you've come from and where you're going. At this level, you don't lean on vices or addictions to avoid reality. You truly forgive those who have hurt you because you understand it's the only way to true freedom. Even if you have big dreams, you're content with the life you have right in front of you. The skill includes practices like forgiveness and gratitude and mindfulness and self-control. And all of those require the earlier skills to fully achieve. Skill 7 is self-mastery. Self-mastery balances productivity and flexibility. You're intentional with your time. You set goals and you meet them, but you're not too hard on yourself when life doesn't go as planned. Many people who are highly productive struggle to rest. Others who are flexible struggle to get things done. Self-mastery is knowing when to push and when to relax. Skill 8 is actualization. This is the most advanced skill because it's truly humble. Actualization is the practice of unconditional generosity. It's giving of yourself fully and freely and joyfully to everything you do without any strings attached. It's offering your gifts to the world through meaningful work and mentoring others and building a legacy without needing recognition or reward. Here's the thing about actualization: you cannot force it. There's no shortcut. If you try to fast track it, you've already lost because it's become about you. Actualization emerges naturally when you've resolved your pain, when you're not constantly thinking about yourself because you're no longer in survival mode. This is the expression of your true self. It's the natural byproduct of having all the other skills in place. So, those are the 8 skills for resilience: joyful identity, compassion, regulation, confidence, assertion, satisfaction, self mastery, actualization. And here's what I want you to understand: these are not personality traits. These aren't things you either have or don't have. They are skills. Skills you can learn and build and grow over time. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not fundamentally flawed if you're missing some of these skills. You're just missing some ingredients. I've created a free assessment that will help ask you some questions and show you exactly where you are with the 8 skills. It takes about 10 minutes to complete. You'll get a personalized report that shows you your strengths and your gaps. You'll see which skills you've already developed and which ones need attention, and you'll know exactly where to start. Because remember, these skills build on each other. You're struggling with boundaries or goal setting or finding your purpose, it's not because you're failing, it's because you're missing the foundation. And now you know what your foundation is. The link to the assessment is in the description below. Take it, see where you are, and then you'll know exactly what ingredients you need to bake your unique, beautiful cake. I'll see you on the other side.